Hello and welcome to Pearl Magazine. Wearing a mask before leaving home has become standard in Hong Kong since the pandemic began. At the beginning of the pandemic, there were no mask factories in the city. And as there was obvious demand, people from different industries built production lines, and there was a comeback of the Made in Hong Kong brand. Pearl Magazine's Gabby Xu visited some mask factories to find out how this relatively new industry has changed over the last 2 years.
戴幾耐口罩？我諗都有排唔使除啊。
我睇好長時間啊！
唔好意思啊，唔好意思。
我哋啲市民係冇㗎喎。
When the pandemic first hit Hong Kong in early 2020, people scrambled to get a hold of face masks, leading to a spike in retail prices on these mostly imported products. By February, many countries started banning the export of masks. Masks supplied locally came only from the Correctional Services Department. The situation inspired a number of entrepreneurs to start their own production lines.
In March 2020, we just rented a unit in industrial building, and we renovated it and built the dust-free plants by ourselves.
Our group decided to make our own factory in early February, around 2.5 months of the preparation.
We wanted to build the factory in February 2021.
Ryan Lee invested $20 million in his factory, one of the first local mask factories established in Hong Kong. To get to market early, he chose not to build the clean room, that's a place with no contaminants, himself. Instead, he rented a place that was originally designed to produce optical fiber in Tai Po Industrial Estate.
The two most difficult things: first, it takes a lot of money, at least $3 million to $4 million. Second, it takes a long time. The shortest time to build a clean room is 1 month, and that was not fast enough. I used to run a pharmacy. Mask making production, which is totally different. My pharmacy experience didn't help.
Masks are made on an assembly line, welding the layers together with the nose strips and ear loops. Tuning and running these machines was a big challenge for these first-time manufacturers.
The biggest challenge is that we knew nothing about the machines. We read the instructions, but we still needed trial and error from time to time, and it takes a very long time. That's why we basically didn't go home to sleep after a month.
Manufacturers in Hong Kong had to import mask-making machines from mainland China or Taiwan. But with no one experienced in running these machines locally, operators had to be hired from the mainland. Ryan Lee paid out $800,000 a year to hire someone from China.
In March 2020, they bought machines from a factory on the mainland. At that time, they asked me to tune the machine. The boss hoped I can work for the mask factory in Hong Kong, and few people knew how to tune the machine. I worked on similar packaging machines before. Honestly, it is not easy for people to learn to tune mask machines. It's difficult, always some minor issues to adjust. I came here on a 15-day work visa and then joined on the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme. The pandemic was serious and I didn't want to come, a bit scared.
In March, the government launched the local mask production subsidy scheme under the Anti-Epidemic Fund. Hong Kong Mask and PPE Association chairperson Dana Wu says the scheme helped set the standard of masks made in Hong Kong.
The price of masks made in Hong Kong is not the cheapest, surely, but the quality is high. Our mask factories set a standard according to the government's scheme. The standard is the foundation of mask factories getting international accreditations.
成為國際認可嘅第一個基石。
肯定支持返香港生產㗎啦，香港人。
梗係支持香港製造嘅嘢啊！
真正係香港製造嘅，咁我梗係支持返香港啦。
While the city is not facing a mask shortage, local factories have been built and mask shops are everywhere now. Ryan thinks his factory has an edge over others because of his sales channels. They sell their masks online and in stores. They now have around 30 retail stores. They also provide white label masks for other brands.
Most
Hong Kong people like going outside to shop. Our branding strategy is using the retail stores to give the confidence to consumers. Although it has no retail stores, this mask factory is taking a different path in its expansion.
We don't have any offline shops at the moment because our team are focusing on R&D.
Melanie used to work in finance. She and 3 other partners are now in charge of finance, R&D, operations, and marketing, respectively.
You're more focused on R&D, and I'm wondering, like for this mask, how to test the breathability for the mask.
Okay, so I will use another device for testing. This is the mask differential pressure tester. So we can use this machine for testing the breathability.
Melanie says they're now expanding their capacity.
Now we have over 35 production lines and 350 staff at the moment. Factory is 120,000 square feet, and we work for 24 hours and 7 days. So our daily production is around 300,000 pieces per day. We have 2 to 3 new products launched each month. Now we have over 100 SKUs at the moment.
This machine is producing masks with a window of clear plastic, which is also known as a smile mask. They help deaf people who rely on visual cues like the movement of lips to communicate. Besides 3-layer surgical and high-protection 3D face masks, manufacturers are producing more innovative and stylish masks with different designs.
I think the customer in Hong Kong, they change a little bit. Mask is not only for protection, but also a kind of their daily living. It's fashion. The mask covers you about 2/3 of your face, so that it is very important to present what is your personality and your style.
Okay, the next one is very interesting.
Simon Lam is also a consultant for one of 6 accredited labs in Hong Kong, which came to existence only since the start of the pandemic.
Before the pandemic, there was no testing lab in Hong Kong.
Yes, I'm quite sure that because there's no business to request the testing of the mask or filtering material.
Now that mask making has become an industry, manufacturers must meet stringent standards. They also spend a lot of time negotiating with designers for the IPs of their stylish masks. Masks with special designs cost more to make, but are very popular.
The most expensive one is the IP products, the authorized rights product, which is $130 with individual pack of 30 pieces.
We have to adjust the design several times with them. When the IP owner says okay, the face mask can then be launched. Regarding the cloth, it is at least 10 times more expensive.
But protection is still the best bet in this competitive made in Hong Kong mask market.
第5波嚟到之後揀口罩就一定係要揀返啲高防護力嘅口罩。
Some local factories are expanding their production capacity to meet overseas demand, despite the easing of COVID-19 restrictions in some countries.
If the pandemic ends, the mask demand will definitely reduce. But besides the B2C business, we also sell masks to some institutions and hospitals.
We are looking quite positive for the future in terms of the business because everyone's awareness of the health awareness are quite high, so that we cannot just abandon the mask. I think even the pandemic is over, our cautiousness is still there. So I think for hospital, for school, for cleaning sector, for transportation, the demand for masks are still here.
When we come back, a local factory owner struggling to survive and face mask fatigue among the population. Stay with us. Welcome back. Hong Kong people are known for always finding ways to overcome obstacles, no matter how bad the situation is. Over the past 2 years, many local entrepreneurs have jumped onto the mask-making bandwagon, trying to take a share in this seemingly lucrative industry amid the economic downturn. But what are their plans after the pandemic subsides, and what challenges do they face? Dennis's factory is located in the industrial center of Kwai Hing. These piles of garbage are substandard masks and materials. In March 2020, Dennis and 3 other partners rented this place to produce face masks.
Originally, we have 4 partners. We experienced a hard time, and at the end, I'm the only one to support the whole factory right now. From the first beginning until now, we kind of suffering around 2.8 million Hong Kong dollars.
After the COVID-19 outbreak, we have around 100 mask factories and 200 mask brands in Hong Kong. But in 2021, when their 1-year lease ends, the number of factories reduced by half. Many people left the market, including HKMPEE's ex-chairman. By 2022, we have 30-odd factories and 80 brands left in Hong Kong.
Dana is the current chairman of HKMPPE, an association formed by many Hong Kong manufacturers at the beginning of 2020. Dana is also a supplier for local mask factories, mainly importing raw materials from China. Many mask factories have moved their production lines to Southeast Asian countries, where rent and labor costs are relatively lower. But Dana says some local producers believe being made in Hong Kong offers an assurance to customers.
Some want to save cost, so they relocated. But some really respect made in Hong Kong. If you don't build a factory here, you cannot produce the exactly same quality mask. Like restaurant chains, some food ingredients, but different tastes.
But maintaining a factory in Hong Kong involves high costs. Federation of Hong Kong Industries chairman Jimmy Kwok says it's more difficult for small manufacturers.
In our knowledge, it would be over 60%. The cost is coming from labor and the materials. If you have different scale in smooth operation, it will be very difficult to make your smooth productions. That will be a hardship for the production management staff.
We cut a lot of people. We changed to part-time. We changed not the full-time. And also we changed back to some more productive workers to narrow down the cost. So, but this is not the original idea that why we start or we want to do it. We want to contribute to the society as a social enterprise model.
Dennis is operating his mask business as a social enterprise now. He hires disabled people. But because he overestimated the production speed, the company failed to deliver all orders by May in 2020. The masks were not finished until 3 months later in August. In the end, they had to refund many customers' orders.
How many masks one machine can produce?
70 pieces per minute. Around 50,000 per each production lines can be produced each day, like for 8 hours production time. Some of the ear loops cannot be well attached to the body of the mask, and also sometimes the metallics, the strip that may be not in the right position. So at the end, we cannot use this because it's already wrong.
You can say this is because of the machine.
Dennis says their lack of experience contributed to the slow start.
Before doing mask business, I'm running several different startups. We don't have any experience before, but we do believe we can have the capability to manage and to start the production, that when we get the machine, we can study and learn. So at the end, yes, we manage that, but there are quite a lot of parameters and speed setting. We need to optimize the machine.
Jimmy says not everyone will survive in the end.
It certainly, we have a lot of mass manufacturers have to face the closing down considerations. In SARS, only 10% the mass manufacturing left within a year after SARS. And now, today, we still have 20%. It's still not bad.
Dennis says with the 200 to 300 production lines in Hong Kong, there is an oversupply in the market now.
I'm not sure whether government they have considered in this situation how we handle this problem or issue. I think funding is helpful, and they need to shut down, and the space is raised, the machine is raised, and also the mass will be raised.
Though their factory is still suffering a loss, the waste from the factory and the initial intention of running a social enterprise inspired Dennis to come up with a sustainable project.
I've met Dennis at university. We update each other. We realize, oh yes, we've been wasting a lot of face masks.
Jackie is a full-time lawyer. She was referred to join the Junior Chamber International and focuses on sustainable projects there.
Actually, in Hong Kong, there are more than 2 million waste masks being dumped into landfills and the ocean.
Not all masks or materials produced pass quality control and instead contribute to waste. More importantly, surgical masks are often made with polypropylene plastics, posing an environmental risk.
We talked about whether or not it's possible to develop a face mask recycling system. We wanted to set up a mobile mask collection system. So it's like a truck, it goes everywhere. Of course, we can think about setting up some boxes in shopping malls, offices. Second, we wanted to collect these face masks and transport them into a factory. We'll sterilize these masks by high heat or chemicals, and then we'll melt them and turn them into plastic pellets. Third, we will then use these plastic pellets and turn them into decorative building or furniture materials.
The project is still in the planning stage. Jackie and Dennis have been discussing this concept with other manufacturers as well as Professor Simon Lam.
Put in the recycling bin and then get it to another chain of recycling procedure. It is possible, but I'm not sure whether it is cost effective. Yeah, but we know we use face masks that is from plastic, and it already created a lot of pollution to our environment. So it is another pressing issue we need to solve.
Mask manufacturer Stanley Choi says Hong Kong is doing a poor job of waste sorting and recycling. So instead of recycling masks like many other factories, Stanley is incorporating the production of degradable masks into their plans.
We're thinking of a plant-based materials. They can degrade within the soil or within certain temperature. Just treat like a normal trash procedure.
We want to produce some degradable masks to protect the environment. There is no difference for the machines, but we need to find different materials. It should be a bit more expensive than our normal materials, mainly our PLA.
But for degradable masks, there is a lack of stringent testing standards in Hong Kong, such as the ASTMF 2100, the international standard.
Those are really focusing on the performance of the mask. So it didn't deal with other parameters like the environmental claim or those antimicrobial claim. of the surgical mask. So to support those additional claims, we have to arrange additional tests, different test methods to prove or to assist our client to prove their mask can have such kind of functionality or have such effects.
In addition to the environmental challenges, some experts say wearing masks also causes other underlying issues. Research carried out by Professor Lam looked at the correlation between wearing a mask, depression, and a person's health beliefs during the pandemic.
I have gathered the data about nearly 10,000 Hong Kong people, and we found that about 46% of general population, they have depressive symptom, and it is quite high. And we conduct another similar study in the late first wave of the COVID. The percentage did not drop. The predictor of this depressive problem or depressive symptom is quite interesting. The first one is the reuse of face masks, and the other is because of the shortage and very high price during the initial stage of COVID. But this factor is generally disappear in the third wave.
The Hong Kong Productivity Council estimated that the average price of a mask made in Hong Kong is $3, a fraction of what it was at the start of the pandemic in early 2020. But in order to cut expenses or save the environment, many people are trying reusable masks.
Many Hong Kong people, they are quite environmental friendly. They want to ask whether a single face mask can be used once more. So they consider whether the disinfection procedure will damage the mask filtration efficacy. For example, dry heat, UVC, and also alcohol. But in my study, I found that dry heat can less likely to destroy the inner layer or the middle layer of filtration efficacy, but the other two will destroy it quite severe. So we cannot use it for the disinfections.
Yeah, so the conclusion is that we'd better not reuse the mask.
Yeah, unless you can just use dry heat. Dry heat is okay. 2 or 3 times only.
That's our show this week. Join us again on Pearl Magazine next week. Bye for now.